Alright guys, hope all is well with you. I'm coming to you and just kind of looking at a couple ideas that's going to help you out with the next unit, next lesson, which deals with triangles and distance. The first idea is just trying to go back into 8th grade, and you guys talked about this thing called the Pythagorean Theorem. And what the Pythagorean Theorem is based off of is it's based off a right triangle in which I have three sides. We usually call them A, B, and C. And what makes it a right triangle is it has a right angle where A and B meet each other. I'm going to call them legs because that's what they are usually called in geometry, is legs. Two legs make a right triangle, and that opposite side will be considered to be hypotenuse. We're going to become quite familiar with this, especially in the second half of the year. So what Pythagoras did is he kind of stole an idea from the ancient Egyptians, which talked about a relationship in order to try to make the pyramids. What they found is they wanted to try to make this slope of the pyramid exactly the same, and what they found is that if I look at these two sides, there's a relationship that should exist that gets me this value. And what that formula or that idea was a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You'll sometimes hear me talk about it in a different way, and you'll just hear me say leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. And it doesn't matter which one that we use. They both mean exactly the same thing, but this always works for a right triangle. That if I take the two smallest sides, A and B, and I square both of these sides and add them together, that's always going to get me C. So let's just look at a couple examples. This one's not that bad. We can call this A, we can call this B, and C. C is always across from the right angle, so that's always going to be the easiest one to find. So we can do 7 squared plus 7 squared equals x squared. So we got 49 plus 49 equals x squared. It does turn out that x squared equals 98. And then we're just going to take the square root of both sides. So I got x to equal the square root of 98. What is the square root of 98? It's just going to turn out to be 9.9. Okay, so let's look at another example here of just kind of applying that. So in this case, I always go across first to find out what C is. This is C. That is your hypotenuse side. And then we will call this A and B. It doesn't matter what A and B is, as long as C is always the one opposite the right angle. So remember we talked about a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we do have x squared plus 7 squared equals 15 squared. So I do have x squared plus 49, and that's going to equal 15 squared, which is 225. Now if I get x by itself, I'm going to have to subtract 49 by itself. This is just a simple quadratic in which I get x squared to equal 176. I'm just subtracting these two values. And then I'm just taking the square root of 176. If I take the square root of 176, it turns out to be 13.3. If you guys remember, what you're going to press to get the square root is you're going to press the second button, which is yellow for most of you guys, and then you guys are going to press the x squared button, and that'll get you the square root symbol. All right, so let's look at a couple other ones here. Same idea. This is going to be C. It's always across from the right angle. And then we do have A, and then we do have B. So I do have 4 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. So I got 16 plus 36 equals x squared. So I do have 52 equals x squared. If I take the square root of both sides, it turns out that x is going to just be 7.2. That is what that missing side is going to be, 7.2. And I'm just going to do one more, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what we're doing here. So I got C, and I got A and B. So this is similar to what number 2 is. X squared plus 6 squared equals 12 squared. So I do have x squared plus 36 equals 144. If I subtract 36 from both sides, you do get x squared to be 108. And if I take the square root of both sides, you do get x to be 10.4. So here's what I'm going to ask you guys to do. Just kind of similar to what we did with lesson 1. I'm going to give you guys these two questions, 5 and 6. And I'm going to ask you guys to try those. When you're done, let's look at the next video.